Personal branding has become this wildly sort of popular thing over the last couple of years. And as somebody who has kind of pushed back against personal brand since they first arrived on the scene, whatever it was 10 years ago, I started to explore it and started to look into the power of a personal brand and why it is that all of these big internet dogs are kind of talking about the importance of it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what a personal brand is and how to build a personal brand that actually reflects your true identity, your unique identity. Because we're moving into a world of AI. The AI revolution is here. There's more competition than ever. So it's important to escape this competition by creating something which is a direct extension, a direct expression of your authentic self. Because if you can create something that is a direct extension of you, of your personal experience, then nobody can compete with you. So yeah, let's get into it. So for me to really start to embrace a personal brand, I had to break it apart and kind of find my own way to look at it, my own perception of what a personal brand is and how I could kind of shift it in a way that kind of suits my own intentions, my own ethics, my own values. So I'm going to break it apart and kind of start from scratch. So personal branding, first and foremost, I said in other episodes, I had to take away the word brand because I can't really associate a person with a brand. The personal brand, the person aspect is the story and the brand is really the product or the service. But let's just take away brand for now and rather put it down as personal presence. It's your online presence. It's how you show up online. So how is it that we can even show up online authentically, when we actually don't even know who we are? So for me, it really starts with yourself. It's really starting with the question, who am I? And why it is that you do what you do, what your mission is. And I've had a few questions come up in the comments, since I released the last video about the importance of knowing your why, inspired by Simon Sinek. So I've been kind of reverse engineering my own life and kind of looking at, how to use my life as an example so that you can use that as a framework to kind of figure out how it is that you can find your mission. Because you might already have a product or you might even have a service, you might have something to offer, but you don't even know how you got to that point where, you were in a position to actually have this offer. So, and that's part of what your personal brand is. It's a story that sort of gets you there. It's the mission, the why, the thing that people connect to you with that makes you stand out. Or you might be in a different position where you haven't even figured out what that product or service is. And in this case, we're talking about YouTube and content creation. It's essentially your videos. And your video should always have some sort of value proposition tied into it. You should be helping somebody if you're doing it in this sort of way. So it's really sort of reverse engineering the whole thing and kind of getting back to what that first problem was. So there's a story in my own life. There's a very specific moment that always stands out to me. And I must have been about 10 or 11 years old. And I remember staring at my parents' window and thinking, I will never live a conventional life. And I can't really remember the exact feeling or the experience that was happening in that moment. It was 30 years ago. But my parents, they were struggling at that point in their life. They were working class. There was a lot of stress, in the house. My dad he had his own business. He was a carpenter, trying to sort of just get his business off the ground and all this sort of stuff. And there was always this big struggle. And so that stress was obviously in the house. My parents worked 7 days a week pretty much. There wasn't really much time for anything apart from work. So that was really where it started for me. It was I don't want to live a life like this. The problem was stress, overworking, not having time for the family, having zero freedom. So in my head, my small little mind as a 10-year-old, I was that's a problem. I don't want to do that. So the journey of my life has been about finding a new way to break out of this way of living, this sort of standard way that we all live our lives, where we kind of get put through this educational system, eventually put into a job that we don't like and end up working more than we live. So I know all of us that are watching this right now, all of you that are watching it, if you're in that position, it's not great. Our system, I'm not criticizing the system, saying it's totally awful. It's been this evolution in time that's sort of gotten us to this place. It was the only version of life that we've ever had. It's the only way it could have been, and that's why it was that way. So even if we start to sort of question the system, we say it's bad or whatever, it is the way it is, and that's fine. So we've got to think about how it is that we can recognize it as a problem, not be a victim of it, and find ways to sort of break out of it. And a lot of my work is based on that. All the films that I make, the stories that I create, they're all looking at these problems and kind of showing a different way of living. So you've got this 10-year-old, this kid, hasn't really worked out, consciously, what this whole thing is, but actions were put in place that started to, curate this life that was the opposite of the one that I didn't want to live. So it really started with a problem. So when you think about your mission, you think about your personal brand, you think about your story, it always starts with a problem. And again, if we come back to like, if you reverse engineer it, like if you already have an idea, if you've got a product or you've got an offer, you've got some sort of service, your personal brand is a story that gets you there. So, and when you think about the films that I make, even this YouTube channel, the intention behind this YouTube channel, it's kind of sharing the experiences that I've had that have solved these problems in my own life to help you solve the problems in your life. So again, I think we're all experiencing similar things. I think so many of us are trying to get off of this treadmill. We're trying to get out of this sort of like conventional way of living, trying to get more freedom in our life, to spend more time doing the things that we love. So again, your personal brand, it's the story, it's your authentic story, the path that you've taken, your unique experience that's gotten you from problem to resolution. And then through that journey, having something that you can share with others that creates impact. And again, that can be in the form of a YouTube video just like this, where I'm offering, value, perceived value, whatever it may be, to the right person. So your personal brand, really, like if you want to escape the crowd, if you want to stand out, if you want to become one of one, it's really important to sort of get away from this copying situation. Copying can get you so far. And I think specifically in this AI world, the thing that's really gonna allow you to stand out is really embracing your story and getting clear on that. And again, this is what we're doing here on this channel. I'm taking everything that I've learned in my life, 20 years of filmmaking, 30 years of, having that little kid with this problem, trying to resolve it, and then moving into this world. And through trying to resolve that problem, I started to live a life that was more aligned with my own desires, a life that would make me happy, which ended up being that kid that loved surfing, that started traveling, started documenting that traveling with a camera. Through having that camera, I started to see that I had the ability to be able to share these trips, with other people that couldn't actually go on these trips, to inspire them to see that there is a different way of living. So it all kind of ties into that seed that was created from that young boy looking out the window going, I'm not going to live a conventional life. And by not doing it, I actually figured some things out that I was able to share and inspire other people to kind of start thinking outside the box and living a life that feels more aligned with themselves. So whatever it is that you're doing, so if you're clearly watching this video, you're more than likely trying to create some sort of content. You're probably somebody that's trying to build a YouTube channel, start a podcast, start an online business, something that creates impact that helps other people. Because ultimately, everything that we do, anything that we do that actually puts money in our bank accounts, is we are creating a service or we're creating a product. That's essentially what's happening. You're either starting your own business or you're working with somebody else. So no matter what it is that you're doing, that is what we're doing in order to sort of create money, because money comes from the value that, we offer through the time that we put in whatever it is that we're doing. So again, build an authentic personal brand. You've got to get clear on your story, on your mission statement, why it is that you do what you do. And that's the thing that will separate you from everyone else. And this is such a key thing, to kind of get right. So if you don't know what that is right now, spend some time, take some time to explore the content of your mind. Take some time to sit in silence and start to think about your life. Think about the things that you value. Think about the things that are meaningful to you. Because when you know what those things are, you'll be able to create your life in accordance to that. Essentially, you want to create a life that is meaningful for yourself, where you can live a life of purpose that helps others. And that's what the purpose is. And this creates meaning. So yeah, I think that's a great way for you to just start, if you haven't really started the journey of trying to reverse engineer your story, or even if you're at the point where you're you're solving a problem right now. You might be in that position where you've got this amazing idea, that usually comes from a problem that you've seen, a desire that you have, that you want to meet. It all starts with problems. So get clear on that, and your personal brand will become more clear.